Joe Bandel spent years translating dark, early 20th century German horror fiction, yet his most profound creation is the Oak Tarot of Love and Romance, a system that strips away occult mysticism to decode human intimacy, in particular the electric, often blinding early attraction captured in his version of the Three of Wands. The traditional tarot reading of this card often involves commerce, expansion, and waiting for literal ships to come in. Bandel discards the merchant on the cliff altogether. Instead, his Three of Wands depicts a man and a woman radiating mutual understanding, surrounded by flying sparks and vibrant golds, electric blues and passionate reds, while standing near an ocean where the man shapes water into ideal forms.
Bandel's intellectual background makes this pivot fascinating. He spent significant time translating authors like Karl Hans Straubel and working on texts from Der Orchideengarten, the 1919 publication recognized as the world's first illustrated fantasy magazine. You have a thinker steeped in the subconscious, weird fiction, and the tension between order and chaos. When he turns his attention to the tarot, he removes the fortune-telling apparatus. He maps interpersonal relationships. In his system, the major arcana trace the broader soulmate cycle, while the minor arcana divide everyday love into 4 suits. Wands represent spiritual love. The Three of Wands captures that specific, dizzying peak of early romantic attraction. It portrays a moment devoid of cynicism, where both people feel flawless to each other.
The decision to categorize wands as spiritual love offers a crucial framework for interpreting this card. In classical esoteric traditions, wands correspond to the element of fire, representing willpower, ambition, and primal energy. By channeling that fiery energy into the domain of spiritual love, Bandel suggests that early romantic attraction operates as a spiritual catalyst. The electric sparks flying in plain sight between the man and the woman are not mere physical lust. They represent a collision of 2 separate universes. The intense, idealistic joy they experience stems from a temporary dissolution of their individual boundaries. For a brief moment, they inhabit a shared, elevated reality.
That shared reality is intoxicating, and it is depicted with striking precision through the colors Bandel chose for the card. The vibrant golds, electric blues, and passionate reds are not subtle. They evoke a heightened, almost altered state of consciousness. This sensory overload mirrors the physiological response to a new romantic obsession. The brain is flooded with a cocktail of neurochemicals. Dopamine drives the intense focus and reward-seeking behavior, while oxytocin fosters the profound sense of connection. The wide smiles and animated gestures described in the card are tangible manifestations of this internal chemical surge. They are in a literal sense high on each other's presence.
The imagery of shaping water into ideal forms warrants deep scrutiny in this context. Water across many cultures symbolizes emotion and the unconscious mind in esoteric traditions. By illustrating a figure molding water into an ideal shape, Bandel makes a profound statement about human psychology during the early stages of romance. The person is not always engaging with the actual human being standing in front of them. They are interacting with an emotional projection. It mirrors the psychological concept of limerence, a term coined by psychologist Dorothy Tenov in 1979 to describe the obsessive, involuntary state of being infatuated with someone.
The perfect clinical parallel for this card is limerence. Tenov identified a process she called crystallization, where the infatuated person filters out the flaws of their partner and amplifies their positive traits to an almost mythical degree. The man shaping the water is engaging in crystallization. He is sculpting his own emotional projection. During this phase, the object of affection is not a complex, flawed human being. They become a flawless archetype designed to fulfill the limerent person's deepest unmet needs. The mutual understanding they feel is genuine in its emotional intensity, but it is at its core based on a curated, idealized version of reality.
Bandel's text breaks down the experience by gender, offering distinct dimensions to this shared hallucination. The male experience is described as a profound sense of being seen and understood for the first time. The female experience focuses on excitement and a deep connection, a feeling of having found someone who grasps her internal world. Both descriptions pivot on the relief of isolation. Modern society fosters profound alienation. When two people collide and project these ideals onto one another, the evaporation of that loneliness feels miraculous. It feels like spiritual salvation, which aligns without friction with his designation of the wand suit. However, the relief is precarious because it relies on the other person sustaining an impossible standard.
That precarious nature is the exact reason the card includes a strong oak tree standing tall nearby. Bandle's overarching philosophy, which he calls the oak matrix, revolves around the integration of opposing forces. He views duality not as a conflict or a war, but as a loving embrace of opposites, much like a yin-yang symbol. The electric sparks, the vibrant colors, the malleable water, all of these represent dynamic, chaotic energy. It is beautiful, but it is unstable. The oak tree represents the grounded reality required to sustain a connection once the neurochemical high dissipates. Without the deep roots of the oak, the sparks will burn out, or worse, they will ignite a destructive fire.
The transition from shaping ideal forms in the water to tending the roots of the oak tree represents the most perilous phase of any romantic relationship. Psychologists working with couples often note that the end of the honeymoon phase triggers acute distress. When the limerent fog lifts, the idealized projections shatter. The partner who seemed flawless without warning reveals annoying habits, differing political views, or emotional unavailability. If the entire relationship was built on the electric excitement of the Three of Wands, the introduction of reality feels like a betrayal. The individuals often assume they chose the wrong partner, rather than recognizing that they transitioned out of a temporary psychological state.
This highlights the brilliance of Bandle's deck as a psychological tool rather than a divinatory one. Traditional tarot readers might pull the Three of Wands and tell a client to expect a new business opportunity, a successful trade venture, or a message from abroad. Bandle forces the user to confront their immediate emotional landscape. If someone resonates with this card, they must ask themselves if they are in love with a person or a projection. The card does not condemn the puppy love phase. It openly celebrates the joyful idealism of it. The sparks and the vibrant colors are vital. They provide the initial momentum required to breach the walls of isolation. The warning is subtle. It suggests that the electricity must in time be earthed.
Earthing the electricity requires abandoning the desire to shape the emotional water into ideal forms. It requires accepting the fluid, often messy reality of the other person. Bandle's use of wands for spiritual love challenges the conventional understanding of spirituality as something ethereal and detached from the physical world. In the context of the Oak Tarot, spiritual love demands the courage to see a partner with clarity and to allow oneself to be seen without the glamorous filter of early idealization. The male experience of feeling complete visibility during this phase is ironic. He feels seen because his partner is validating the best version of him, a version he puts effort into performing. Authentic visibility only occurs when the performance stops.
Performance is an exhausting burden. The animated gestures and bright eyes depicted in the card require immense energy to maintain. When you look at trauma literature and the study of the nervous system, intense, instantaneous sparks are sometimes recognized as a dysregulated nervous system responding to familiar, chaotic relational patterns. A massive surge of electricity might not signal a healthy connection. It might signal a repetition compulsion, where a person is drawn to a dynamic that replicates unresolved early life conflicts. The oak tree serves as a grounding mechanism to regulate the nervous system. It invites the couple to slow their breathing, step back from the blinding sparks, and assess whether the connection has sustainable roots or is just a flash fire.
The distinction between a healthy connection and a repetition compulsion alters how we view romantic destiny. Bandle's major arcana traces the soulmate cycle, but his definition of a soulmate sidesteps the fairy tale concept of a flawless, predestined savior who arrives to fix your life. Instead, it involves the cosmic journey of integrating the masculine and feminine within oneself and with another. The Three of Wands represents a catalyst in that cycle, not the destination. It is the initial burst of energy that propels two people into the crucible of intimacy. To survive the crucible, they must shift their focus from the electric blues and passionate reds to the steady, unassuming presence of the oak.
This forces a reevaluation of what society categorizes as a successful romance. Popular culture without pause glorifies the Three of Wands phase. Movies, songs, and literature fixate on the sparks, the mutual delight, and the dramatic declarations of understanding. When a relationship matures into the quiet stability of the oak tree, cultural narratives often frame it as a loss of passion or a settling for mediocrity. Bandel counters that narrative. The electric excitement is a prologue. The actual work of spiritual love, the integration of opposites without conflict, occurs in the shadow of the oak. It is the deliberate choice to remain committed when the partner no longer serves as a perfect mirror for one's own desires.
The deliberate choice to remain committed brings us back to Tenov's concept of limerence. Tenov emphasized that limerence is involuntary. You do not choose to enter a limerent state. It seizes you. The intrusive thoughts, the euphoria, the despair, these happen to you without conscious consent. Real love, by contrast, is an active verb. It requires agency. When the man in the card stops shaping the water into an ideal form and lets the water flow according to its own nature, he transitions from involuntary limerence to conscious love. He relinquishes control over the image of his partner and accepts her autonomous reality.
Relinquishing control is a terrifying prospect for most people. It exposes the individual to the risk of rejection, the certainty of disappointment, and the unpredictable nature of another human being. By stripping away the esoteric mysticism of the traditional tarot, Bandel demands that the user take responsibility for this terror. You cannot blame the stars, a bad card pull, or some hidden occult force for the failure of a relationship. The Oak Tarot acts as a mirror, reflecting the user's capacity to navigate the transition from idealistic joy to grounded reality. It asks a very simple yet brutal question. Are you willing to let the sparks fade in exchange for the enduring shelter of the tree?
That mirror forces a profound level of self-interrogation. For anyone caught in the blinding light of a new romance, the Three of Wands serves as both a validation of their joy and a vital reality check. It honors the beauty of that electric connection while insisting that a sustainable future requires deep roots. If you found today's conversation insightful, send this episode to a friend who appreciates deep dives into the psychology of romance.